The Su Group publicly announced that Zinn would take over as interim chairman. This also officially announced Zinn's return to the public eye. Zhifei, on the other hand, wasn't looking for his mother and Zhiyu, but was busy sponsoring Sara's planned concert in Orus Hill. Dear viewers, what is Charlie's response to this? Let's follow this increasingly complex story. Thank you.
Chapter 2549. Video about the Su scandal has been constantly fermenting on the internet. While the Su family's reputation is notorious on the street, the Su Group has not given any official explanation. The enthusiastic netizens came to Su Group's official website and the official Weibo to denounce it, making the Su Group's public relations team helpless. When Liona and Zhiyu, the mother and daughter, were still missing in the eyes of the outside world, the Su Group announced in a high profile that Zinn would temporarily take over as the acting chairman of the Su Group. This is also equivalent to officially announcing the return of Zinn to the public. Interestingly, the return of Zinn has aroused the sympathy of many people. Many people think that Master Zinn is too miserable. His illegitimate daughter was sold by his father, and he himself was sent to Australia by him. This was unlucky enough, but his father still didn't want to let him go, and gave him a big black pot of betraying his daughter. Worse still, when he was alone with all the infamy, his father murdered his eldest daughter and his wife. Now, his eldest daughter and wife are still missing, and he has only one son left. In the eyes of netizens, in the world, there may not be a second person as miserable as him. Therefore, he suddenly came back to preside over the Su family, and to a certain extent, aroused the sympathy of the public and made the public's impression of the Su Group a little better. But Chengfeng was even more uncomfortable. Because he knows that the more Zinn can make the public feel compassionate, the less likely he is to step onto the stage and take charge of the Su family again. But he has no good solution now, he can only go through the difficulties before speaking. Zinn cares about Zhiyu, so after he was promoted to acting chairman, he immediately invested a lot of manpower and material resources to find the whereabouts of the mother and daughter in Orus Hill and surrounding areas. To this end, he even offered a cash reward of more than 100 million. Many private detectives and bounty hunters flocked to Orus Hill in order to earn this huge reward. Unfortunately, no one can find the slightest clue about the mother and daughter. Charlie didn't go to Shangri-La for 2 consecutive days. Zhiyu, who was confined here, had become more impatient. She was not dissatisfied with the state of being confined but was always looking forward to the figure of the benefactor. With the warming of these 2 kinds of weather, the famous singer Sara's concert is getting closer. This concert is her first concert this year. Therefore, both she and her agency paid great attention to this concert. Not to mention Sara herself. As planned, her first concert this year was on the 20th of the first month of the lunar calendar, and her first concert was held in Eastcliff. However, because of the reunion with Charlie, it happened to be Charlie's birthday on February 2nd of the lunar calendar, so she deliberately changed the concert from Eastcliff to Orus Hill and postponed it to the 2nd day of February of the lunar calendar. In fact, for Sara, this concert was performed for Charlie alone. Since it is dedicated to the beloved, it naturally takes a little more thought. Therefore, although there is still a period of time before the performance, the preliminary work team has arrived in Orus Hill and began to make very detailed preparations for the scene. Sara herself is a top singer and actress in the country, so the overall specifications of her concerts have always been very high. This time the concert, because of Charlie's sake, the specifications were especially surprisingly high. The first is the opening of Orus Hill's largest Olympic Center stadium, which can accommodate more than 50,000 people. Second is the stage hardware, which uses all the world's top devices, such as lighting, sound, stage and background, these devices. In addition, the chief director, tuner, lighting engineer, and dancer team are all the largest production teams in Europe and America. After all, Europe and the United States have more experience in concerts, and these teams have even managed super large concerts with over 100,000 audiences. In fact, from a financial point of view, holding such a very costly concert is basically not profitable, and it may even lose money. But she didn't care at all. What she was looking forward to was to show her perfect self in front of Charlie. Because Sara's concert is getting closer, the whole of Orus Hill is excited about it. Charlie also found that there are more and more publicity advertisements about Sara around. Background advertisements at bus stations, electronic streaming media advertisements in elevators, giant billboards on the roadside, and display spaces on the floors of high-rise buildings are almost all promotional materials for Sara's concert. This made Charlie couldn't help wondering, hasn't the tickets for Sara's concert been robbed early? What is the point of investing in such big publicity at this time? What he didn't know was that Zhifei did all these publicity campaigns without exception. Zhifei is thinking about how to use the opportunity of the concert to get closer to Sara. Therefore, he decided to spend tens of millions first, talk about the entire Orus Hill advertising space, and replace it with Sara's concert promotional materials to help her make the concert's momentum strong enough so that when she comes to Orus Hill after that, she must be more or less moved. The next day, when Charlie had breakfast and sent his wife Claire out of the house, he received a call from Isaac. As soon as the call was made, Isaac reported, "Master, there is something I have to report to you." Charlie asked him, "What's the matter?" Isaac said, "That's right, Miss Sara's agent has already booked a presidential suite with me for a week before and after the concert. Early this morning, Zhifei from the Su family suddenly ran over to rent the hotel for that week. He bought all the advertising spaces, even the right to use the giant LED screen in that building, right across the terrace of the presidential suite." When Charlie heard this, he asked in amazement, "What is Zhifei doing? You can't just want to advertise to his mother and his sister, right?" "No," Isaac hurriedly said, "this guy wants to display the promotional posters of Miss Sara's concert on these advertising spaces and the giant LED screen." Charlie frowned and couldn't help but smack his lips. This Zhifei is really interesting. At this time, he didn't quickly find a way to find his mother and his sister. Instead, he spent such a lot of thoughts on the nanny. Quote, Isaac blurted out, "Master, I think Zhifei, this guy, must want to pursue Miss Sara." "Yeah," Charlie said with a smile, "he has been so obvious, it is simply the lover's heart that everyone knows." Isaac said anxiously, "Master, you must take it seriously." Charlie couldn't help but said awkwardly, "How can I take this kind of thing seriously?" Seeing that Charlie seemed indifferent, Isaac said anxiously, "Master, this Zhifei, his mother and sister are still missing. He is still in the mood to pursue Miss Sara so hard. This proves that this kid is ruthless. Such an injustice, Miss Sara is such a good girl, if she is really deceived by him, it is not just Miss Sara who suffers the loss, wouldn't you also lose a lot?" Charlie coughed twice. "Don't worry about it. I am a married person. It is her freedom to choose the other half. It is not our turn to worry about her." After speaking, Charlie suddenly felt something uncomfortable in his heart. At the same time, he was surprised that his heart at this moment really agreed with what Isaac said just now. Just as Isaac said, Zhifei still had the heart to chase Sara at this time, which proved to some extent that this person was a little unjust. More importantly, Charlie involuntarily assumed in his heart that Sara and Zhifei were together. Although it was only an assumption, it still made him feel bad. Charlie really understood at this moment that Sara had already taken a place in her heart. Seeing Charlie keeping silent, Isaac couldn't help but think, "Master, you must pay attention to this matter. You must not let Zhifei this be its start succeed." Charlie was silent for a moment, and said, "So, I don't care about everything else. You must not sell all the advertising resources in your hand to him, and no amount of money shall work." When Isaac heard this, he was pleasantly surprised and said, "Okay, young master. What is waiting for you? As long as you express this attitude, I will never sell even a single advertising space to Zhifei." Charlie gave a satisfied hum, and exhorted, "Please help me find out what other tricks Zhifei has, and tell me as soon as you find it." Isaac hurriedly said, "Oh yes, master, there is one more thing, I haven't had time to report to you." "Say it." "Master, this Zhifei has a group company specializing in cosmetics. This company also has many well-known cosmetics brands. This time he reached cooperation with Miss Sara, and his cosmetics company named Zhiyu. Miss Sara's concert tour and this title sponsorship are for charity purposes. The content of the cooperation he reached with Miss Sara is that every time she starts a concert, he will donate 10 million to charity." Charlie couldn't help touching his chin, and said with a serious expression, This Zhifei is really going to find an entry point. She is not short of money, so she can't look down on any form of advertising sponsorship at all, but he prefers to use charity the way touched the girl. This kid seems to be a master with a sharp vision. Otherwise, there is a master pointing behind. Isaac hurriedly said, Master, then you have to quickly think of a countermeasure. Charlie said, I see, Zhifei, you help me observe, if he has any new actions, tell me in time. Okay, young master. At this moment, Zinn came to Chengfeng's study early in the morning and reported to him, Dad, our shipping license has been revoked. What? When Chengfeng heard this, he immediately blurted out, what's the matter? How can the qualification certificate be revoked? Zinn said, according to the shipping department, it's because the Su Group's overseas reputation has recently declined too sharply, and the overall score has failed. Therefore, we are required to make rectification first. Before the rectification is over, they won't allow us to operate the ocean shipping business again. Chengfeng was shocked. How could this be? Did they tell us how long we need to rectify it? Quote, Zinn shook his head and said, there is no time limit for rectification. They said that we should make rectification as soon as possible. After the rectification is completed, they will arrange a review according to their time. If the review is okay, the license can be restored. Chengfeng yelled, isn't this going to be a disaster? Our Su Group has developed the fastest ocean shipping business in the past 2 years, and after entering this year, the shipping price of ocean shipping is getting higher and higher. Now the freight of a container is more expensive than before 3 or 4 times. This is a rare opportunity in the shipping industry in a century. If we stop our business at this time, doesn't it mean that we have cut half of our money? Zinn sighed. Dad, I also told them about this, and even pleaded with them, hoping to get a chance of probation, but the other party just didn't let go, so I asked someone to inquire about the above. If we cannot resolve this reputational crisis and give a satisfactory account of Shred's intrusion into Treasure Pavilion, this business will not be open to us in the future. Chengfeng gritted his teeth and said, no one has been fighting thunder this time. They are trying to force me to stand up and be a target. Zinn said helplessly, in fact, this matter requires an explanation that can be explained above, but we have not given any solution until now. Chengfeng snorted coldly, and said, what can be done? All the spearheads are directed at me. Unless I stand out and get beaten, I will never explain the matter. As he said, Chengfeng remembered something and hurriedly said, by the way, you quickly prepare a sum of cash to send to the families of the victims who Shred killed in that pavilion. In any case, let them come forward and record a video of understanding. Then edit the video that everyone understands into one piece and post it online. Zinn said, Dad, the families of these victims may not be able to cooperate with us in this way. Chengfeng said coldly, they don't cooperate. If they don't cooperate, give them money. If 5 million doesn't work, then give 10 million. If 10 million doesn't work, then give them 20 million. I still don't believe it can stop them. Zinn nodded. Dad, then I will arrange someone to go to Orus Hill to talk with the victim's family today. Chengfeng said blankly, be sure to talk to me. Okay, Dad. Chengfeng frowned and said in a cold voice, the biggest thing the domestic ocean shipping industry does is our Su family, followed by the Wade family. Now, if our transportation is stopped, wouldn't it give the Wade family a great opportunity? As long as this stopped state lasts for more than 3 months, the Su family will be overtaken by the Wades. Yes, Zinn said with a sad face, this family is now actively working hard. I heard that they just ordered 3 container ships with the shipyard 2 days ago, and even went to South Korea to talk to the South Korean shipping group. The chartering business has been negotiated because the family's current business volume has surged and its capacity is insufficient. Chengfeng slapped the table angrily, it's unreasonable. Let the Wade family pick up a bargain for nothing. After speaking, he said sternly, this matter must not just wait passively, we must find a way to meditate. Since our qualification has been temporarily suspended, then we will find a qualified shell to hang in. At least. Don't let our business stand still. Zinn said hurriedly, Dad, I have already contacted this matter, but other domestic shipping companies dare not call us because they are also worried about being punished. Chengfeng cursed with embarrassment and anger. Damn, these dogs used to come to the Su family to cheat on our family, and now all of them are damned. Since the domestic can't handle it, then go to a foreign company. Zinn thought for a while and said, Korea's companies have been listed first by the Wade family. Now our best choice is Japan's Ito family, the Matsumoto family, and the Takahashi family fall. Now Japan's shipping is almost all in the hands of the Ito family. The Ito family. When Chengfeng heard these 4 words, he immediately cursed coldly, damn, Ito Takehiko, that dog thing, is not on the road at all. When we first chose between him and the Takahashi family, he was like a licking dog, he fawned on us all day long. Now the Takahashi and Matsumoto clan are finished, he is so powerful, and now he is really unreasonable. Ocean transportation is one of the most profitable industries at the moment. If a large container ship runs on European and American routes with a full load, a container freight of 20,000 to 30,000, a single trip can earn at least tens of millions in freight. The Su family has the largest transportation fleet in China. As long as these ships run, they can create extremely high profits. They are definitely the core and most important source of revenue for the Su family. However, now that none of these ships can get route approval due to their license being revoked. Without approval, these ships can only be docked at the port, not only cannot make a penny back but also incur a lot of money for maintenance every day. In addition, although the entire shipping company's transportation and support team have nothing to do, the Su family absolutely dare not lay off staff and can only continue to spend money to support it. Therefore, Chengfeng felt very anxious about this, and said in a deep voice, hey, I blame it. The impact of this incident is really bad. I don't know when it will pass. It is very likely that we will not have a chance to get it back before things turn around. Zinn thought for a moment, and said, Dad, or else I will go to Japan again and have a chat with Takehiko. If he is willing to cooperate with us, we will use a shell company to work with him. Let's register a new company, then takes the Japanese license and temporarily change all of our ships to that Japanese company name, so that we can solve the urgent need. Chengfeng nodded, sighed, and said, the method is indeed a good way, but I don't know what attitude Takehiko will have. This guy definitely thinks that the Ito family has a unique opportunity now and may not be able to agree to cooperate with us. Zinn said, the Ito family has been held by Takehiko's daughter for some time recently. Nanako Ito is at the helm. Although this girl is young, her style of doing things is still very radical. In a very short time, she has integrated Japan's shipping resources, and her overall strength has improved rapidly. Chengfeng frowned. Nanako, is she Takehiko's only daughter? Yes. Zinn said, she is now the heir and helm of the Ito family. Chengfeng sighed thoughtfully, Ito Yuahiko and Philip Zhiyu, how come these two have only given birth to one daughter? Wouldn't it mean that others will be freed up for nothing? Zinn shrugged his shoulders. Who knows what they think, and the big entrepreneurs who only have one daughter are more than the two of them. Chengfeng sighed, hey, looking at it this way, Nanako's price-performance ratio is much better than Sara's. As he said, he couldn't help but figure it out, and said, look, the Ito family has now seized the unique opportunity, and its strength has skyrocketed. Not only is it the first family in Japan, but it also leaves the second and third places far behind. In the back of my head, the Zhiyu family is indeed a little less interesting in comparison, and Sara has not yet taken over the family. The real strength in her hands is much worse than that of Nanako. That's true. Zinn nodded in agreement, and said, this Nanako has always had the title of Yamato Nadeshiko. Now the Japanese media simply call her, the richest woman in Japan in the future. There are probably many men who want to marry her. Chengfeng asked tentatively, hey, you said, can you give it a try? Zinn said hurriedly, Dad, don't you agree that Zhifei pursues Sara? Chengfeng said very seriously, but now it seems that Sara is far less cost-effective than Nanako. Zinn said awkwardly, Dad, knowing that he just went to the city this time, and we changed our minds, it will definitely have a big blow to his enthusiasm. After all, he really likes Sara. Chengfeng smacked his lips, and said, if you know it, let him continue to try to pursue that Sara. You will find another chance to make an appointment with Ito Takehiko, or simply make an appointment with that Nanako. Let's see if we can make another appointment for a face-to-face meeting. The big deal is that we can give them more profit. As long as they are willing to establish a joint venture with us and help us revitalize this business, we can spend 20% of the total share and the profit with her. Zinn nodded and agreed, and said, Dad, I will talk to the Ito family. If possible, I will make an appointment with them as soon as possible. It is good. At this moment, Tokyo, Japan. Inside the Ito mansion, it was a busy scene. Nanako Ito ran around the room constantly, packing all kinds of clothes and daily necessities into the suitcase. Her assistant Kawana, at this time, was in a hurry, scratching in the backyard kennel. After finally letting her grab a very naughty little Akita, she hurriedly hugged the Akita tightly in her arms and hurried to the door of Nanako's room. Miss, can you see this puppy? Nanako just put a cherry blossom pink jacket with a strong girlish breath into the box, looked up at the puppy in her arms, smiled, and said, It turns out to be Momotaro. To be honest, I really don't want to put it. It is given away. Kawana said hurriedly, Miss, then I'll change to another one. Nanako hurriedly stopped her and said, No Kaana, just it. After all, the other party is Charlie's friend. Since she likes Akita dogs, I will naturally give her one with the best appearance. Kawana shook her head and sighed. Miss, you are so hard on that Charlie, not only with him but even with his friends. Nanako said with some shame, Charlie is right, our Ito family is kind, of course, I have to do my best for small things. Kawana blurted out subconsciously, but he is already married. Nanako said with an embarrassed expression. Charlie is my benefactor. I just want to repay his kindness, and it has nothing to do with whether he's married or not. Kawana put the Akita dog named Momotaro on the ground, grabbed Nanako's right hand, pointed to the ring on her right middle finger, and said, Miss, if you really just want to repay him, why would you keep wearing this ring on your hand? Nanako hurriedly concealed. This ring is a gift, it has nothing to do with Charlie. Seeing Nanako's desire to cover up, Kawana sighed and said helplessly, Miss, if I have a mirror in front of you now, you will know that you are the least lying woman in this world. Nanako Ito flushed with shame immediately, and said falteringly, I don't have any. Okay. Kawana said helplessly, Miss, I'm just your assistant. You don't have to bother to lie to me, but when you face Charlie, isn't the performances so cramped? Nanako couldn't hide her embarrassment and said, I'm sorry Kaana, I actually. At this point, Nanako Ito suddenly got a little speechless, and sighed helplessly, and said, Hey, let's not say, thank you for your reminder. Please help me put Momotaro into the airbox, and give him some water. Yes, we are going to the airport by helicopter. Kawana nodded, Okay eldest lady, is there anything else you need me to help you with? I'll come back later. Nanako waved her hand and said, No, you can help me set up Momotaro, and then pack your own luggage. We will go to Orus Hill this time. It will take a long time. Kawana hurriedly asked, Miss, you don't plan to come back until the end of the concert? Yes. Nanako said seriously, I plan to stay in Orus Hill until the concert ends. Kawana asked again, what about the job? The family still has so many things to deal with. It doesn't matter. Nanako smiled slightly and said, I will set aside 8 hours a day to deal with work problems. All work will be solved online through computer and mobile phone. During this time, I have been promoting the online office reform of the entire Ito group. Just take a look at the actual results. As she said, she smiled and comforted, Kawana, don't worry, I am not the kind of woman who is playful or irresponsible for work. Even if I go to Orus Hill, I will not be sloppy about the work I should do. Kawana nodded gently. She also has to admit that Nanako is a very hard-working woman. She took over the position of family leader for a short time, but she did it very seriously and responsibly, and many innovative measures she took were quite effective. Her father, Takehiko Ito, is a very traditional Japanese businessman. This old generation of Japanese entrepreneurs usually pays much attention to the sense of ritual. As long as they leave home every day, they must be in suits and shoes. They are also meticulous in the company. The process is also very rigid. After Nanako took over the Ito group, the first thing she did was to gradually transform the Ito group into a more modern company. The first is to implement a paperless office in the company as much as possible. Paperless is only one aspect, but the larger purpose is to put most of the work, files online. In this way, not only the timeliness is fast, the privacy is strong, but also the safety is high, and it is more convenient to read and inspect. In the beginning, many old employees were still a little unacceptable. They still followed the older generation's working methods, and they had to be careful and take it step by step. However, under the impetus of Nanako, everyone not only accepted the new office style but also actually felt that the overall work efficiency has been greatly improved. Now, Nanako continues to promote the company's online interaction, and even specifically enables real-time video conferencing solutions, in order to ensure that she and other executives, no matter where in the world, as long as there is an internet, even if the work is separated by thousands of miles, the work can be guaranteed not to be affected. This is a very simple thing for many emerging internet companies, and it has even become the basic way of their daily work, but for established traditional companies, this is still a very new thing. Changing their work habits is by no means an easy task. Fortunately, Nanako's management skills are unambiguous, so these innovations can be promoted steadily. During this period of time, while reforming the Ito group, Nanako also went all out to integrate many other resources. The market released by the Takahashi family and the Matsumoto family was fully collected, and the Ito family took another step up. This also made Kawana very admired. Therefore, she is not worried that Nanako will leave her work behind when she goes to Orus Hill. However, she also has her own concerns. She worries that Nanako will become reluctant after she goes to Orus Hill and meets her beloved man. Sometimes, many people who are particularly capable and promising will lose their morale and pursuit for the one they love. Therefore, she was also afraid that after Nanako goes to Orus Hill, she would not want to return to Japan. However, Kawana did not dare to express her worry, because she was afraid that after she said it, she would leave a psychological hint to Nanako, so she said, "Miss, then I will settle down with Momotaro. I'll meet you after I'm ready for a while." Nanako checked the time and said, "You don't need to come to me again. The helicopter will take off in 20 minutes. Then we will meet on the tarmac." "Okay, eldest lady, then I'll pass first." After Kawana left, Nanako was packing her things. Her father Takehiko Ito steered an electric wheelchair into the house slowly. Seeing that she was packing her luggage, he asked, "Nanako, you are going to Orus Hill this time. How long would you be gone?" Nanako hurriedly put down the clothes in her hand, and said shyly, "Father, I will go there for about 10 days this time." 10 days? Ito Takehiko couldn't help but exclaim, and asked, "How can it be so long?" Nanako blushed and said, "Father, I want to stay in Orus Hill for a few more days. It can be considered rest. During this time, I have been busy with work, and I am really tired." Ito Takehiko smiled slightly and said, "A little tired? I think it's fake that you are tired. Is it true that you want to see Charlie earlier?" "Father," Nanako said shyly, "since you understand everything, don't ask knowingly." Looking at his daughter's shy response, Ito said in distress, "Nanako, I do not object that you like Charlie, but you have to promise me that you must not sink too deep, at least, don't put your own future as delayed because you cannot be with him." Nanako hurriedly said, "I know, father, don't worry." Ito Takehiko nodded, stretched his waist, and smiled. "Oh, I'm bored at home these days. If you don't dislike it, I will come to Orus Hill with you, okay?" "Huh?" Nanako exclaimed, "Father, you also want to go to Orus Hill?" "Yeah," Ito said with a smile, "with you gone, I will be too deserted here. I just want to go to Orus Hill to meet Mr. Wade. I have never had the opportunity to thank him. I have to drink 2 glasses with him for whatever he wants. I have a few bottles of 50-year-old whiskey in my collection, which happened to be brought to Mr. Wade to taste." Nanako nodded hurriedly and said, "Great father, then we will go together." As she said, she suddenly remembered something, and said embarrassingly, "But, father, I told Miss Song this time to live in her house. If you live with me in her house, I am afraid that will not be suitable." Ito said with a smile, "It doesn't matter, you and Kawana live in Miss Song's house, and I will stay in the hotel with Tanaka, so your aunt will come with you." Nanako hurriedly asked, "Tanaka-san is with you too?" "Yes." Ito sighed and said, "Since his amputation, Tanaka has been a little frustrated. After all, He is still young and can't accept such a severe blow, so I plan to let him go out with me. He had been to Orus Hill before, and this time I will take him to the old place to revisit and see if I can cheer him up again. Nanako couldn't help feeling sighed. The relationship between her father and Koichi Tanaka, the master and servant, is indeed very deep. They have always supported each other and never abandoned, which is really moving. So she hurriedly said, if this is the case, please get ready as soon as possible. As Ito Takehiko wanted to take his loyal subordinate Koichi Tanaka and his sister, Emi Ito, to Orus Hill, Nanako hurriedly delayed the flight's departure time and cancelled her plan to take a helicopter to the airport. For Ito Takehiko and Tanaka, who had both legs amputated, the experience of taking a helicopter was not friendly and convenient. So Nanako rearranged a fleet of assistants and servants who needed to go to Orus Hill. More than 10 people traveled to Tokyo Narita Airport by car. In order to take care of her father, Nanako and Ito Takehiko shared a commercial vehicle. When the vehicle was driving on the way to the airport, Nanako was already excited. Thinking of arriving in Orus Hill where Charlie lives in a few hours, Nanako wanted to call him now and tell him the message. However, she didn't want to go to Orus Hill for his purpose, which was too obvious. She went to Orus Hill this time for several high-sounding reasons. The first reason is that she wants to see Warnia and the Akita dog she gave to Warnia. The second reason is that she can also go to see Sara's concert. She really likes Sara, and has always wanted to find a chance to watch her live performance. The third reason is to send Momotaro to Aoshui, because Aoshui also likes Akita dogs, and through Warnia, she promised Aoshui that she would give her one. However, these three reasons are just superficial rhetoric. The core motivation that really drove Nanako and allowed her to travel thousands of miles to Orus Hill was because she missed Charlie day and night and wanted to find a chance to meet him. Moreover, she did not want to make her true motives too obvious. Because she was worried that that would bring some psychological pressure to Charlie. That's why she used these three reasonable reasons to get herself to Orus Hill first and then contact Charlie after she arrived there. In this way, she can conceal her core motivation to meet Charlie. At this time, Emi Ito, who was sitting in the co-pilot, opened her mouth and said to Takehiko Ito, I have already booked a hotel in Orus Hill. This time I stayed at the Shangri-La Hotel. I have already booked a presidential suite, and several luxurious suites next to it. Ito Takehiko nodded lightly, and said, Emi, you can decide these things by yourself. You don't need to report to me. Emi Ito hurriedly said, okay, I know. While talking, Nanako suddenly received a call from Kawan, who was sitting in a Mercedes in front of her. Nanako answered the phone and asked, Kaana, what's the matter? Kawan said hurriedly, Lady, Zinn from Su family. He called me just now and he said on the phone that he hopes to talk to us about a framework for cooperation. Sus family. Nanako frowned, and said without hesitation. Aren't we stopped cooperating with overseas companies for the time being? Just refuse him directly. Kawan explained, Miss, this cooperation of the Su family is very different from the past. The overall conditions are very friendly to our Ito group. Very friendly. Nanako asked curiously. How friendly is it? Kawan said in detail, Miss, the Su family had their shipping license revoked because they had a catastrophe in China. Now they have a large number of transport ships that can only be anchored at ports. They cannot make profits. It means that they set up a joint venture company with us, and then put all the ships under the name of the joint venture company. We don't need anything, we just need to get a qualification in Japan, and they will operate the rest. They can give us 20% of the profit. Nanako couldn't help but said in surprise, is the Su family so generous if it directly divides the 20% profit? Kawan said, Mr. Zinn really said that, and also said that in terms of specific proportions, there is still some room for discussion. I personally feel that even if it is 30%, the Su family will not have any opinions. Nanako was silent for a moment and then said, Kaana, don't reply to him about this matter. I always feel that the Su family really lacks a basic moral limit to do things. If it is not the last resort, it is better not to cooperate with this kind of family. Okay. Kawan did not persuade much, and immediately replied, then I will let him dry first. After hanging up the phone, Ito Takehiko on the side asked, what? The Su family came to work with us. Yes, father. As soon as Nanako came to talk about business, she became like a subordinate in front of Ito Takehiko, and said respectfully, the Su family's shipping license has been revoked, so they now want to talk to us. Cooperation requires a solution. After speaking, she gave a brief introduction to the conditions offered by the Su family. Emi Ito, who was sitting in the co-pilot, exclaimed, if the Su family can really give up 30% of the profits, it will definitely be a huge additional income for us. Takehiko Ito shook his head and said lightly, the essence of the Su family is an extremely selfish family. In their logic, only he makes other people's money, and no one else makes his money. At this time, they are willing to make money. Taking out such a large profit can only prove that the problems they are facing are very serious. Once we help them tide over the difficulties, they will definitely turn their attention to the part of the profit that is transferred to us. Then they will definitely think to do whatever it takes to get the money back with interest. Yes. Nanako nodded in agreement, my father and I have the same opinion. For a family like the Su family, we must stay away. After half an hour, a Gulfstream G650 aircraft took off from Tokyo Narita Airport. Nanako took the opportunity to go to Orus Hill with her father and aunt. At the same time, Chengfeng stood on the terrace of the lakeside villa, overlooking the calm lake, with a cold expression. He looked at Zinn beside him and asked in a cold voice, why, the Ito family hasn't responded yet? Not yet. Zinn answered truthfully, I contacted Nanako's assistant. She said that she would feed back the situation to Nanako. Maybe Nanako needs to think about it again. Chengfeng shook his head, there is nothing to consider about this kind of thing. If Nanako is really interested, of course, she will contact us immediately to discuss the details of the follow-up cooperation. If she is not interested, naturally it will be just like now. Do not respond again. Zinn said hurriedly, or maybe they just wanted to hang us on purpose, and then take the opportunity to speak to our lion. Impossible. Chengfeng said coldly, even if you want to get caught, you will at least accept it on the surface, first establish a smooth communication channel between each other, like this one who doesn't respond directly to it. The probability is that the other party is not interested at all. As he was talking, the butler Anson walked over and whispered, Master, Mr. Mai's plane will arrive in Suhong in 1 hour. Oh. Chengfeng suddenly beamed his eyebrows and blurted out, quickly, tell the kitchen, press the prepared menu, and immediately set up a banquet for Mr. Mai to pick up the dust, and also notify Regnar to come over. When Regnar received Anson's notice, he was extremely excited. The problem with his younger son Wuqi has always made him very worried. But he knew very well that Charlie would not be able to cure his younger son in a short while, and now the Su family invited a master of feng shui metaphysics. He naturally looked forward to this. The master can help him resolve this knot. So he immediately said to Anson, thank you, Butler Su, for telling me that. I will bring my son over here. Let Master Mai take a look for the at him. When Anson heard this, he hurriedly said, Don, T Don, T Don, T Don, T. Dosen, T your son ask for something every hour. If this is for Mr. Mai to watch, I Don, T know what Mr. Mai will do. What do you think? You'd better come by yourself first, and after you come, introduce your youngest son's situation to Mr. Mai in detail, and let Mr. Mai be mentally prepared first. Regnar suddenly felt hot on his face. He only thought of a chance to heal his youngest son, but he ignored how much the youngest son is now being rejected. So he had no choice but to respectfully say, thank you for the reminder, Butler Su, then I will come by. Myself first. When Regnar set off for the lakeside villa of Chengfeng, Isik received a report from his subordinates that the presidential suite, which was vacant for half of the year, was booked by the Japanese Ito family. Moreover, the list of residents sent by the Ito family actually included Ito Takehiko's name. Isik was surprised and immediately called Charlie to report. Charlie was also quite shocked by this. In the list sent to him by Isik, he saw not only Ito Takehiko's name, but also Ito Takehiko's sister Ito Emi, and Ito Takehiko's subordinate, Koichi Tanaka. Charlie wondered, he didn't understand why Ito Takehiko suddenly came to Orus Hill, and also took Tanaka Koichi. You know, both of them have undergone amputation, and now they are both disabled with no legs. Charlie didn't have any thoughts of despising the disabled or discriminating against the disabled. He just didn't understand why these two people were already in this situation, and they came all the way to Orus Hill. Thinking about it again, Warnia said at the beginning that Nanako would also come to Orus Hill to enjoy Sara's concert. In that case, it is estimated that Nanako will also be here this time. The reason why he can't see Nanako's name on the hotel's occupant list is that Nanako plans to live in Warnia's house this time. But Charlie was also a little surprised, wondering why Nanako came to Orus Hill. Why didn't she say hello to him in advance? On the other side, Ragnar hurried to the lakeside villa of the Su family. After arriving, he did not see Chengfeng and Zinn, but the butler Anson received him. Anson arranged him in a lounge and warned him, "Mr. Mai will be there in a while. You will wait here first." He left this room without authorization. "Just sit here and wait for my message. You understand?" Ragnar was a little unhappy with Anson's superior, pretentious attitude. After all, Anson is not the Su family, he is just a dog of old Sus. Moreover, it is rumored that this person was not originally named Su, but his real name is said to be Dong Anson. After staying in the Su family for a long time, he licked his face and went to see Mr. Su, asking Mr. Su to give him a surname. Throughout the ages, only the emperor of that year would give his ministers and military generals surnames. I have never heard of any wealthy family that gave surnames to their subordinates, let alone any subordinates who asked their masters to give them surnames. Anson is the first time, so he is also rejected by outsiders. But Anson himself didn't care. What he really wanted to do was to become the confidant of Old Su and make Old Su absolutely trust him. As long as he could make his future bright, his surname didn't really matter. Although Ragnar looked down on Anson by 10,000 people, he didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction in front of Anson. He could only say respectfully, "Don't worry, butler, I'll just wait here honestly." Anson nodded in satisfaction, and dropped word, "Wait." After speaking, he turned and left the lounge. Chapter 2560. Ragnar sat on the sofa a little annoyed and muttered to himself, "FCUK, it's just a dog. He dared to pretend to me like this. He talked so much, he didn't even pour a glass of water. What a Fu King be it starred." After half an hour, a convoy of several Rolls-Royce drove into the gate of the lakeside villa with great strength. Chengfeng, Zinn, and Anson were all waiting at the door. As soon as the convoy stopped, Zinn personally stepped forward and opened the rear door of the second Leslie. Inside the car door, there was an old man with silver hair wearing a black embroidered tank suit. At that time, he had to be over 80 years old, but the whole person was very strong and he couldn't see how old he was. Zinn, who is over 50 years old, looked at the old man in front of him and said respectfully, "Hello, Grandpa. You have been gone for many years." The old man smiled slightly, twisted his beard, and said happily, "Are you guarding the way? When I saw you last time, you were a young man, and now it's a good year, right?" Zinn respectfully said, "Grandpa, I am now 50-50 to know the destiny. Unlike me, you can still look so energetic in my old age." The old man smiled and said, "I can't talk about the spirit, the lowest has already reached my forehead, and the sky is gone by the sight of it." Chengfeng hurriedly said at this time, "Zinn, please get your grandpa down first, don't let him sit in the car for a long time, it is not good for his health." Zinn came back to his senses and hurriedly reached out and said, "Grandpa, please. This old man is the 31st generation of the Mai family, Dan Mai. Dan is well known in the American Chinese circle. Although he is not as good as the most famous one, he can definitely be regarded as a relatively top group of Chinese-American feng shui masters. Since the real top master has been relatively low-key over the years and has not been to China for several years, he just gave Dan a chance to rise. 93-year-old Dan has never retired and is still active in the field of feng shui. He often goes around to watch feng shui and fortune-telling for some top rich people. Because his strength is indeed extraordinary, he has the reputation of the great master. This time, in order to invite him out of the mountain, the Su family spent $15 million, and at the same time paid for his charter flights to and from Orus Hill, as well as all other expenses for food, clothing, housing, and transportation, which brought him over from the United States. At this time, Dan stretched out his hand and tapped Zinn's arm, and the person came out of the car dexterously. Chengfeng hurriedly stepped forward, bowed, and said, Uncle Mai, it's so hard for you to run so far. I'm sorry. Dan smiled and said, Chengfeng, your father and I are good brothers. If you have something, how can I help? As he was talking, the door of the co-pilot was also pushed open, and a 27-year-old young man stepped down, paced to the old man, and said respectfully, Grandpa. Dan stretched out his hand to bring him to his side, and said with a smile, Chengfeng, Shudao, let me introduce to you, this is my longtime great-grandson, Mike. Mike, Zinn asked subconsciously, is it the English name or the Chinese name? The young man smiled and said, Uncle Su, Mike is my Chinese name, but my English name is also Mike, and the two Chinese characters are also transliterated. Dan smiled and said, young people are more fashionable. When Mike's father named him, he deliberately named him such a combination of Chinese and Western names. Chengfeng hurriedly said, this name is very interesting, and it happens to be Mai. It is a pun intended to kill two birds with one stone. It is really wonderful. Dan waved his hand, Chengfeng, don't brag about his dad here. Mike's name is a bit playful. It's not wonderful. Chengfeng smiled awkwardly and said, Uncle Mai, I don't have my educational level as high as you. As far as I am concerned, this name is really great. Dan patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, okay, let's sit down and talk about your family's affairs.